Welcome to Mama Tusa, Conversations with a Midwife. I'm your host, Atusa Benji. A quick note before today's episode. This show talks about birth, life, death, and all the complexities in between. My goal is always to share stories that leave you feeling empowered, but please know that some topics may be challenging or deeply moving. Also, while I'm an experienced midwife, I'm not your midwife, and the information on this podcast is not intended to be medical advice. Please consult your healthcare provider when considering what is best for you as an individual. Now, without further ado, I hope you enjoy the show. Hi everyone, it's the end of the year and I thought I would just do one solo episode. It's been a minute since I've done a solo episode since the very beginning of the Mama Tusa podcast, but I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for an incredible 6 months. Thank you to my production team, to Josh Stratton-Carlson, who has been my podcast producer. Thank you to Jessica Bonafede, who does my social media. Thank you to my family who's put up with this for the past 6 months. I have so much respect for people in production. I'm not a creative. I am not anyone who knows anything about these technicalities, and I am humbled that 3 minutes of content can take 3 hours or 3 days of production. So thank you. Wow, what a year. We have had so many different guests on the podcast. I am so grateful to each and every guest who showed up, came to the studio, and shared their story just because they wanted to support the podcast and wanted their story to be out so that it would help another person. And if you know me, I don't really hold back. I believe that if you're willing to share your story and you're able to share your story must be shared, because that lived experience can help another person who is going through it and give them some strength and courage and hope. Every story has been incredible. We have had birth stories. We've had postpartum stories. We have had stories of loss, stories of recovery from illness, stories of babies being born where babies want to be born and us having little control. Doctors on the show, nurses, midwives, educators, pediatric dentists, nutritionists, dietitians, weight loss doctors. My goodness, such a variety of guests, and each and every one has brought me joy, has brought me gratitude, and has put out a seed of knowledge and a seed of hope into the world. And the Mama Tusa podcast is all about birth and death and life and everything in between. We had my best friend Reza on, who has shared about his journey. We'll have him back again. You're actually going to see some social clips of him in the near future. And I have an amazing lineup. The Mama Tusa podcast is going to come on twice a month, still with amazing guests. Please give me feedback. I love to see you in the market when you say, that was great, give us more. Someone was like, what's up with your hair? It looked like crap in the last episode, which actually forced me to actually do something with my hair before I come on. This podcast was not supposed to be video. It was supposed to be audio only. So I would show up with my hair up and whatever I was wearing. And then we decided to do YouTube, and we have cameras on, and that was not what I was expecting. So we're going to glam it up a little bit in 2026. I'm just grateful, and I'm so hopeful that we continue to grow. Please continue to like us, continue to follow us. And I'm so accessible. Call me, text me, DM me, tune in on wherever you get your podcast. I'm so excited for 2026. We've hit so many themes this year, and as I look back on all the points and all the things that we've learned, a few things have become obvious. Number one, there is no wrong way to birth, and there is no one perfect model. The home birth model has its issues, the birth center model has its issues, and hospital birth has its issues. The truth is somewhere in between. And you can actually look at both sides of the spectrum. In the hospital model, we treat birthing people as patients, which they're not. They are typically normal, healthy people having babies. On the other hand, we have the community birth model, which isn't perfect either, especially in certain regions where collaboration is difficult, access to hospital is difficult. When you need a doctor, you need a doctor. Midwife scope of practice and midwife's training is not going to allow us to do certain things that we need in order for mother and baby to be safe. And on the other hand, doctors don't have the training that midwives have. We understand a lot more about physiological birth, about keeping the mother comfortable and informed and safe, and really trusting her instincts and not only relying on medicine and science. And when the two come together,
magic. So at the end of the day, whether you are a birthing person or a doula or a nurse or a midwife or a physician, I think we can all agree that client-centered collaborative care is where it's at. That's where we're going to get the best outcomes. I think when I told a lot of people that I was going to have a podcast, they were like, oh, is it going to be all about birth? It's not all about birth. It's a lot about birth. But you know what? Even birth is not all about birth. It's about the journey. It's about conception and preconception and postpartum and, again, everything in between. So we had Ronita and Vita on from Wenatal who talked about the importance of health during that trimester 0 that they talk about, where the body is preparing to get pregnant, both for the man and the woman, sperm quality, egg quality, nutrition, toxicity, all of those things. We talked a lot about conception. We talked about the pregnancy journey and all the allied fields that are coming together when accessible. They have to be accessible. People need equity and access to care, to massage therapists and acupuncturists and perinatal specialists who can help with mood and anxiety disorder, to chiropractors. We had Dr. Berlin on, to people who can provide care for breech delivery. We need to bring vaginal breech delivery training back so that the C-section rate comes down with babies that are breech and fit the protocol in order to be able to have a safe vaginal delivery with a doctor who knows what they're doing. I was recently at the DONA conference, and one of the donas stood up and said, postpartum is not an add-on to services. It is a service in and of itself. And I love that so much, because now we're walking around saying postpartum is not an add-on. It is an important time where people have to be taken care of emotionally, physically, spiritually. We talked about belly binding. We talked about postpartum therapy. We've talked about nourishing foods. We've talked about postpartum support. You need an extra set of eyes on you after you have a baby. Yes. Is it one of the most natural things in the world? Absolutely. But you know what? People get lost in between birth and that 6-week visit. People fall through the cracks and people die. And part of our maternal morbidity and maternal mortality is actually from the postpartum period. People think that there's danger in birth. Yeah, guess what? There's danger in postpartum too. Many people know what a birth doula does. Most people don't really know what a postpartum doula does. So we've talked with guests about postpartum doula support. Postpartum doulas provide non-clinical care to the birthing person after the birth, which includes education, which includes helping take care of the baby and teach breastfeeding and help give the baby the first bath and teach the parents how to do it, make nourishing meals. And most importantly, postpartum doulas are the boots on the ground after that baby is born. Many times people have a baby, they don't see a provider for 6 weeks. A lot can happen in 6 weeks, and the postpartum doula is the one who sees what's happening in the home, what's happening with the family emotionally, physically. Is there food on the table? Are the other children taken care of? Is that mother coping? And is there a need for referral? That's where safety comes in. That's where our morbidity and mortality rates go down, is when people are centered and they are surrounded by a community who truly cares and has referrals to people who can show up and help what's going on in that moment. The prenatal period is incredible, and we've had so many guests on who've talked about their journeys from I hated every waking minute of being pregnant to I could have been pregnant for 3 years. That was me. I do not ever want to go through another postpartum period, nor will I. But for me, being pregnant was awesome. I've had guests on that were like, absolutely not. I don't ever want to do that again. We've talked about the importance of having a provider who listens, who understands, who honors what you say by not being dismissed or laughed at or brushed off. We've talked about not having 7-minute obstetrician visits. The average visit in the United States for a person who is pregnant with an obstetrician is 7 minutes. In the midwifery model, we see people for an hour or more if we need to. That's where you understand your client. That's where you see their way. That's where you learn their values. That's where you build trust and you build rapport and you build that continuity of care. And the power of having one person who takes care of you from the beginning of your pregnancy, from whenever you start care until your 6-week visit, is so powerful and has so much better rates in satisfaction and health of both the mother and the baby. We've talked so much about birth planning. You cannot plan birth. Babies come in the day, babies come at night, babies come before their due date, after the due date, in the car, on a plane. We don't decide when or where babies come, period. So birth is unpredictable. We talk about birth plans, and we've had so many birth stories where people are like, well, I was going to have this glorious hospital birth and get my epidural at 4 centimeters and be so comfortable. And I had a 3-hour labor and there was no time to get an epidural. Or I had planned this glorious birth center birth or home birth, and my midwife didn't make it and I ended up catching my own baby in the tub. Or I didn't qualify for a home birth anymore after 36 weeks and I had to completely change and pivot and have a hospital birth. So we can have a plan. We can have preferences, we can have a wish list, we can have a dream, and hold on to it loosely because we don't actually know how it's going to play out. And I think that a provider, such as a midwife or an OB or a doula, who can actually talk to the person and remind them that I know you have a dream, and I hope and pray that that dream comes to fruition. And what is your plan? What is your way if it doesn't? And that's been super helpful in my practice. I always talk to my clients about what if plan A becomes plan B or becomes plan C. And I think a lot of robust conversation and planning and anticipatory guidance comes from talking about it, because sometimes it comes out of the clear blue sky and you feel completely sideswiped, and that makes people traumatized. And while birth can be small t traumatic, we're trying to keep it from being big T traumatic. And I think there's a way. Last but not least, let's talk about infertility, which is definitely not talked about enough. Yes, it's the Mama Tusa podcast and we're talking about birth, but many people face infertility. Many people have a very difficult, arduous, expensive roller coaster ride before they get pregnant. I was so honored to have Dr. Sahar Wertheimer on, who is a reproductive endocrinologist, who talked about the biological clock and told us, you know what, it's real. The biological clock is real, but that's not the whole picture. And how much pressure do we put on women who are not getting pregnant? And we're looking very, very little at the role of the man, who is 50% of the part of this conception. So men also need to eat well and exercise and take vitamins and detoxify. And it's just not addressed enough. It's on the woman to get pregnant, but it's never really looked at that, oh, perhaps it's low sperm count or it's motility problems, or maybe this guy's lifestyle just sucks. And he needs to clean up his act on his side so that we can actually have a successful conception. So the good news is that men have a superpower. Their sperm regenerates, so they can actually improve their sperm quality by their way of life, the way that they're living and eating and exercising and taking vitamins, hydrating, avoiding stress, and not taking drugs and not drinking actually improves sperm quality. What an amazing conversation that was. I got so much feedback from that particular episode and the episode with the girls from We Natal, where we continue to talk about toxins. What are we wearing? What are we drinking? What are we breathing? And what are we thinking? And how are we treating ourselves? I think so much of this past 6 months has been about sharing stories and leaning on each other and having the courage to tell your story, and also knowing that you're going to be held by someone who's able to hold that space and not judge and not give advice and not criticize, but just be there for your experience. And that's really what this is about, both on the podcast, in my practice, and in life. You are not alone. If you have a question, if you're feeling hopeless, if you're feeling helpless, if you're feeling over it, or if you have a story to share, I'm here. I think that when Mama Tusa was conceived, I was really trying to bring people together to share their stories. And the common theme often is isolation, where people feel like they were the only one going through this, and there's shame and there's sadness and there's fear about sharing their story because sometimes they feel like no one else has really gone through it. And we have stigma. We have stigma across cultures. One of the most beautiful things about being a midwife is that we are so involved with our clients. We hear about their lives. We hear about their losses. We hear about their hopes. We have long visits with them. We spend about 10 minutes listening to the baby and taking vitals, and the other 50 minutes is really about what is going on with you. And I really have so much hope that more people will reach out to midwives. You don't only have to have a midwife. You can have a midwife and an OB. You can have a midwife and OB and a doula, midwife and a doula, OB and a doula. Include us in your births. I promise you, you won't regret it. And look at the statistics. Midwives are reducing C-section rates and increasing satisfaction with birth and maternal and infant outcomes, as are doulas. I'm so grateful. I am looking forward to 2026. Thank you to my family who puts up with all of this, to turning one of our rooms into a production studio, to a mom who is on call 24/7, coming and going and writing and teaching and birthing and showing up, and to my husband who puts up with my shenanigans, and to my kids who are my number one critics, and to you all. Thank you so much. I really pray that the year ahead is filled with joy and peace and blessings and lots of healthy babies and healthy mommies. Happy New Year.
Mama Tusa is hosted by me, Atusa Benji, and produced and edited by Josh Stretton Carlson. Our theme music is composed by Mehri Lalazarian. If you'd like to support the show, please follow and review us on Spotify and Apple, or subscribe and like us on YouTube. This show is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider when making medical decisions. See you next Tuesday.